Hello, authors, book lovers, and storytellers. Welcome to another session here in Readers Magnet's featured author interview. My name is Leah, and I will be your host for today. And with me is one of the Readers Magnet's featured author, and of course, one of the most valuable author we have. And yes, today she will be sharing to us what this book is all about, her as an author, and of course, what inspired her to write this book. So, yes, everyone, let's all welcome our one and only Ms. Lynda Daniele, author of the book Grandpa Nick's Bump. All right. Hello, Linda. It's good to see you. How are
Hello.
you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Wow, that's good to hear. Thank you. All right. Yes, Linda. So, of course, this is the moment that we've been waiting for because, yes, it's now time to know more information about your book and, of course, the journey behind you creating this book. Yes. And we are
Mhm.
very excited.
Uh-huh.
Okay. But yes, before we talk about the book, Linda, of course, we wanted to know who Ms. Lynda Daniele is. So, yes, a little bit of self introduction, please.
Okay. I'm Lynda Daniele. I was married. I'm a recent author. Only in the last 6 or 7 years, I've really been writing a little bit. And so I'm kind of pretty much new at it. Um, and the first book that I have really represents the reason why I started to write. And that Grandpa Nick's bump was a tumor that he had, a very large tumor, and um,
Mm.
and this book really is about uh, for children about death and dying because he the kids across the street asked him to be their grandfather. They were the four little steps, and they asked him to be their grandfather, and he said of course I would. And unfortunately about 4 months later he passed away. But that's part of who I am too. I really needed at that time to be able to put my feelings into words and to put it on the page. It really does help. But I am a former library trustee in my local town, and we had built, it's beautiful, the first voluntarily built public library in the country. And I was chairman of the trustees when we did that. So that was really exciting. And that was an elected office. So I think it was like 13 or 14 years I was a library trustee. And I was a music major in college, and I haven't done anything in music for years.
Mm.
And I'm also a third order Dominican, which is part of the religious order, Dominicans, and it's the third order, so it's a level of the laity, and I've been involved in that a little over 20 years as well. And I was a faith formation director at my local parish for 20 years as well. So,
Wow.
yep. I'm a mom, grandma. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Linda. And wow, I believe that, your book is also advocating for a specific cause and agenda aside from you sharing your experience at the same time. This is something that could also help a lot of families out there on how to, deal with dad in the family and how to cope up with this,
Exactly.
um,
Exactly.
yeah. Okay. All right. Yes, Linda. So, of course, we wanted to know more about that. How did you start it? And yeah, can you tell us what this book is
Sure.
really all about? Mm-hmm.
Well, I was having a really hard time after my husband passed away, and I really didn't quite know what to do. So I joined the local YMCA in my area, and they had a writing class. And so I took the writing class, and I really enjoyed it. I got to know the people really well in this little program, and they gave me quite a few pointers. But I started writing Grandpa Nick's Bump um, with that in mind, and it got my words down on paper, my feelings down on paper, and then it just sort of maybe over the course of I don't know 3 or 4 years or so, it actually came into a whole story. And like I say, the children across the street, the four little kids, um, and they're all in college now. They're not little
Mm-hmm.
anymore, but I
It's
can
an
show you.
achievement. Hmm.
I don't know if you can see that or not, but they're the little kids, and they just
Okay,
traipsed
wow.
across the
What a
street
wonderful
one day, and
family.
they asked him to be their grandpa, And he said, sure, I'd love to be your grandpa. And they had a lot of fun.
Wow.
Um, when I did my little research to be able to do this, I found out that there's not that many books out there that are for children about losing a grandparent or a parent or
Mm-hmm.
somebody close to them. There's a lot of books out there about pets, losing your
Mm-hmm.
puppy, your kitty, whatever, but there's not many out there for actually losing somebody that you really love. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so hopefully this will help people deal with it, and it's something that you can. It certainly is a conversation starter,
Mm-hmm.
so whatever your faith is, this is Christian based, but whatever your faith
Nice.
is, you can bring that into it, and you can it's just the whole story on how they dealt with it. And I can show you at the end here. um there's let's see, I don't know if you can see it, where he's in heaven. He's
Wow.
passed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
see, if I always go the wrong way, I'm backwards.
No, it's fine.
And
It's
yep,
okay.
so it just gives you an idea for that book of what that's about. So it's a little bit different. When I took it to my
Mm-hmm.
local library, instead of putting it in the children's section, they put it in the bibliotherapy section, um,
Mm.
which I thought was really I really wanted it in the kids section, but they put it in the bibliotherapy section, and I do understand that move. I do understand
Mm-hmm.
that. So I can see where they did that. But at least it's there. If people have any questions, they can. Uh, like I say, it's a conversation starter for parents or grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Exactly. And especially also earlier, Linda, you also talk about, let's say, getting the parental love from someone who is not blood related,
Exactly. It
yeah, and
could be an
that's just
aunt
so
or an
priceless.
uncle, or
Mm-hmm.
it could be a dear friend, like, for the children across the street, literally across the street. Um, it was a neighbor. So,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
he had always been really close to them anyway. We knew them all from when they were born. But like I say, the youngest one right now is a senior in high school, and the oldest one is out of college and working. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it took
Right.
a
And you know
while
what?
to do this one.
Exactly. You know what, Linda? That's actually one of the greatest things that you've done for this book, and how to not lose faith at the same time,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to finding a parental love from someone who is not biologically related can
Right.
be a deeply enriching experience. The connections, the mentorship, the friendship, the relationship that you have. Where emotional support is there, the guidance, the commitment, and the mutual respect. Wow, that's
Yeah.
so nice. And at the same time, you mentioned earlier that this whole journey of you creating the book is also based on your experience, where that time or that moment that you lost your husband. I mean, about that one, Linda, there must be some emotional triggers. Going back to
Oh,
that
yes.
specific memories. How did you deal with it? And right now, it's showing that this book of yours is really such a successful creation. You've been getting a lot of positive feedback.
Well,
So,
I enjoyed writing it, but it was cathartic. I got
mm-hmm,
things down on paper, but well, one of the things that happened too that might be interesting is when I was little, my grandmother passed away, and it was not a good experience, not good at all. And I made a promise to myself that
mm-hmm,
if I ever had children, that my kids would never have to deal with it like that. So when my son was little, we had cats, and they brought home mice and chipmunks and stuff. We had funerals in our backyard. We did the whole thing. We said
mm-hmm,
little prayers and everything. So when it came time for he had to deal with somebody in our family passing away,
mm-hmm,
it was like, okay, that the groundwork was set. Uh, and that's what people don't do. People avoid the whole subject. And then
mm-hmm,
what I also feel really strongly about, Leah, is that you don't want to um, talk down to children. They know
mm-hmm,
when they're being talked down to, and they don't
mm-hmm,
want it. They don't want it. So when you sit quietly and you talk to them
mm-hmm,
sincerely, it makes a really big difference, and that helps. you cope yourself, and it helps the child cope as well.
Mm-hmm.
Our children may not be able to understand everything, but
Right.
they get when they're being talked down to. They really don't like it.
Exactly. So it's also about, how do you explain the death of a loved one to a
Hmm.
child by, of
Hmm.
course, gently and directly. We can use words, dad and died with in short explanations, like
Hmm.
using different words, the different
Yes,
or vague language often create
exactly.
fear in
Even body
children.
language. Yeah,
Yes.
even body language, when
Hmm.
you talk about this with a child. But I'm a firm believer in when your cat brings home a
Hmm.
chipmunk, do they're 2-3 years old, and
Right.
you do the little funeral in the backyard, and you
Hmm.
say, okay, this is what happens, and it's just part of life. um, Not easy, but it
Hmm.
is the real world, and
Exactly.
we have to teach our children to um, be part of the real world and not a fantasy. They get
Hmm.
enough fantasy. They have to know how to navigate the world
Hmm.
as it is slowly.
Right. And additionally, sharing comforting memories and emphasizing that, the loved one will always be remembered can also
Mhm.
help them process their grief at the same time.
Absolutely. And that's
Right.
whatever your faith might be, it could
Hmm.
be any faith. Um, that will help a child get through it as well too, so that they realize that it's not just happening to them, that there might
Hmm.
be a child in their classroom that is dealing with something similar. It's not only me, poor me. It's now I have the strength to venture out and help somebody else in need because I've been helped.
Exactly.
I know what that is. So that's kind of what that's about.
Right. And this is also a good thing, Linda, to really know who the right people to talk with. Seeking professional support at the same time could also help.
Yes,
Let's say, for example, there's already a lot of, counseling sessions that we can have right now can also be, beneficial if the child is really struggling to, let's say,
absolutely.
struggling significantly with their grief.
Absolutely,
Yeah. So this
absolutely.
is actually a good guide, a good help for the families out there, especially with parents, when it comes to, letting really the people really letting the child know what's
Mm.
the real situation, what's this happening all about. So it's going to be a good guide for them.
Yes,
Wow.
yes,
That's amazing, Linda. And I also admire you because you brought up earlier about the, understanding God's purpose is also about the faith, why these things are happening right now. And wow, that's amazing.
yeah. The world
Yes.
can be a hard place, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that your family has to be a hard place. And your family can be your neighbor. Your family can be an aunt or an uncle, or your pastor, or your rabbi, or whoever it might be. Your family is a
Right.
very broad. It's a broad word, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
strongly about that. It could be a teacher, a nurse. It could be anybody that
Mm-hmm.
can um, help navigate those things. But the whole point too, I think, is to have children realize that when they're being helped, they're learning how to help. So when something does come up, they can say to their friend who loses a puppy or loses a grandparent or whatever, they can say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I know how you feel. I feel
Mm-hmm.
really sorry, but I know how you feel. You'll be okay. And
Right.
that's really, really important.
Yes, and everyone could really play a vital role in someone's lives.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Perhaps most importantly, yes, grandparents, it's because, they can really create this lifelong memories and a deep sense of love, the connection with our grandchildren, children. It's really a true blessing, for the whole
Yes.
family.
Look, I have my granddaughter, who never met Grandpa Nick, so that's another reason that I wanted
Mm,
to write this little series, is that this is a way for her to know, um, uh, to know him. One of the things, I don't know if I can switch this, if you can see it or not. No, I
mhm.
don't think you can. There's a little picture that she made, and it says it's a heart and a rainbow and a kitty cat looking underneath the rainbow. And she says, "I don't fully know who you are, but here is your note." So
Wow.
we were writing
Oh,
together.
that's so
She
priceless.
did that when she was 6. So she's 8 now, but did that when she was 6. So that's at least so she knows something about her grandfather, so
Exactly.
it's
Mm-hmm.
a whole, like, full circle.
That's so sweet. That's so sweet. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that,
Sure.
Linda. And yes, of course, Linda, before we end our session, yes, is there any message that you'd like to, give to our viewers out there? And yes, you could definitely talk about the other two books you have. We're
Yes,
excited to know more about that
yes.
as well.
This is, I don't know if you can see it or not because I never get this right, but it's Grandpa Nick the
Okay.
conductor. And
Uh-huh.
some of the story is true, but I really embellished it a lot. And my husband was a trolley operator here in our local area, along with my son. And so they really enjoyed doing that. And let me see if I can find. So this is like the
Mm-hmm.
trolley, Pearl Mountain number 3. And one of the things I do in my books is I have the children find a dove. Um,
Hmm.
they have to find the dove. Every page has a dove
Interesting.
that's hiding. And because you may not always be able to see the Holy Spirit, but the Holy
Mm-hmm.
Spirit's always with you. So that's Grandpa Nick
Amen.
the conductor. And the
So
one,
that's the second book after
that's the
the
second
Grandpa
one.
Nick's
Yes.
Bump. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. And then I'm working on a third one now that hopefully will be out this year. That's the goal.
Oh, we're
And it's
excited.
called The Adventures of Grandpa Nick and the Model A. And
Okay. All
there's
right. There's a
Grandpa
car
Nick.
in it. Wow.
Yeah,
Such a
and
good book cover.
she talks. Um, the car is alive. It's a 1931 Model A car. We really have a 1931 Model
Wow.
A car, and it's the adventures that we've had. My husband got it when he was 16, um,
Mm-hmm.
and we're only the second owner of a 1931. Can you imagine? And
Wow. That's amazing.
so, she's her voice is about 5 years old, and
That's
she doesn't
cute.
understand people at all. She's
Mm-hmm.
very sassy, and um, she kind of tells people um, what she thinks. And then this is another little picture of Grandpa Nick and the Model A.
Mm. That illustration is so cute. Mm-hmm.
That's not a sad one at all. Both of
Right.
the last two are much better, and that's probably because I'm better.
Of course,
You
you
know what
are,
I mean?
Linda.
So yeah,
Right. Thank you so much, Linda. And of course, thank you so much for, also gracing with us today, for choosing Reader's Magnet to be part of this whole journey with you.
sure.
And yes, for our viewers out there, please do check Ms. Linda Daniele's book, and that's available in Amazon.com, Barnes&Noble, and of course, Reader's Magnet's bookstore, and of course, her website as well, www.ldanieleauthor.com. So definitely, it's going to be your chance to know more information about the book, the journey behind this, and of course the author itself. Thank you so much, Linda. And
Thank you,
yes,
Leah.
everyone, for our viewers out there, thank you so much for being with us on this whole journey. And yes, again, our author, Ms. Linda Daniele. Thank you so much. And as we say it here in Reader's Magnet, we share your story with the world. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you so much.